Oh, hi, Jay.
Oh, hi, Mike. Happy Halloween.
Well, happy Halloween to you, too. With, like, all these weird, super powerful alien prisoners from all over the galaxy, like, fighting each other. You can do the gladiator ring, too, but you can also do, like, this and that. And this
Yeah.
In fact, there was an episode of Star Trek Voyager like that. It was the early acting career, I should say, of one Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. The Rock.
He was on Star Trek?
He was on Star Trek Voyager 7 of 9 because she's a Borg hybrid, got kidnapped by this giant spaceship that had all these satellite dishes on the top, and it transmitted a gladiator arena where you could watch it to all these distant planets, and everyone bet on it, and then so everyone fought each other in the gladiator arena. And 7 of 9 had to fight The Rock. And he didn't say anything.
Was this pre the Scorpion King?
Oh, yeah. Because he didn't say a word. Because they didn't know what The Rock was cooking in terms of acting.
You're no bigger than a Tarkanian field mouse. Pink's insulting me by putting you in the pit to face me.
I must warn you, I possess superior strength.
I'm trembling.
That concept's fun.
Yeah.
It's been done before, is what the point I'm making. I'm not just trying to bring up Star Trek. Sure. Let's just break it down like this, right? Episodic television. You got something like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I haven't brought it up before, but I'm going to bring it up now.
Well, and this could have been that. I mean, like I was saying when we left the theater, the concept that you go off into outer space to meet your creator, and you find out that your creator wants to kill you, like hates you. That's a terrifying idea. It's a bleak concept.
That's the plot to Star Trek V.
Oh, the why would God need a starship? Yeah.
What does God need with a starship?
That's true.
Jim, you don't ask the Almighty for his ID.
Yeah, it's a great concept, and it's a scary concept.
Would you say the Star Trek Voyager episode of Prometheus was better than Prometheus the movie?
I don't know anything about Star Trek Voyager.
There was a ship in Starfleet called the Prometheus. And it had 4 engines, just like the Prometheus in this movie. Do you think Damon Lindelof ripped that off?
I think what you're trying to say is that Damon Lindelof and Ridley Scott are horrible hacks, and they're worthless filmmakers, and you could make a better movie than them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So Ultron wasn't supposed to be a bad guy. He just was so incredibly powerful. He realized humans were the big threat to Earth.
He's basically Ed 209, where if you step out of line even a little bit, you're dead.
It reminds me of that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, when they accidentally create Professor Moriarty. Well, they say they create him on accident. They create a supervillain on accident. In the episode, Geordi and Data are playing on the holodeck, right? And they're playing their Sherlock Holmes adventures, and Data keeps solving all the cases too quickly. So Geordi says, "Computer, create an enemy or create an opponent, an adversary." That
is capable of
defeating Data, and so the computer interprets that to create something that's smarter than the computer itself. You gotta be really smart to defeat Data. So then they create this holographic character that's self-aware.
I really liked the part where Black Widow was riding on Hulk's back as they climbed up the floating city. That was great.
That was awesome.
We got a futon. You got rid of. Oh,
he's dead. Get back to life.
it's a miracle.
They're in that episode of the Timescape episode from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think the original mom was more of like a working businesswoman who didn't have time, really.
Yeah, she worked in like a department store and.
Yeah, played by Catherine Hicks.
Oh, from Star Trek 4?
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Don't tell me. You're from outer space.
No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space.
Oh, well, I was close.
You stupid bitch! You filthy slut!
Yeah, it's just almost like an AI that's learning and developing, but it's learning the wrong things because kids are shitheads.
Yes, and that was its focus. But then, yeah, you have the safety guards disengaged. It's sort of like a Lieutenant Commander Data is really evil kind of moment. When his circuits get scrambled and I'm going to kill you.
What are you doing?
Hold very still, counselor.
That's happened a couple of times. Not to bring up Star Trek. Huh.
What's so interesting?
Well, I read this entire book only to get to the end and find out that ghosts aren't real.
It's also vague enough where it can be universal.
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie is hit so hard, is that so many people can relate to what it's talking about, as opposed to something like Star Trek Picard, which is like the writers liking the smell of their own farts.
Subtlety, simplicity. This show has a lot of almost like bottle episodes. Like that's like Star Trek thing. Star Trek thing, like cave episodes or bottle episodes. Like, we don't have that much money. Let's do a simple episode where everything takes place in this one cave set we have. It's one set. They don't go to 28 different planets.
Right. It looks like the next gen village sets that they have. That same town that they always reuse with the fountain in the middle, the courtyard, you know. It's on like 15 different episodes, just decorated differently. Put some plants over there. Well, speaking of Thanos, let's talk about him. The breakout star of this film.
Yeah.
Purple monster from space.
It looks like a big purple nutsack.
And I hate to do this, but this whole movie was ripped off from an episode of Star Trek. And Rich will know it. I was thinking about it during the movie.
Which one?
When Thanos was explaining his backstory.
Oh, this is the TOS show where they wanted Kirk to get that one girl sick so she would infect all the other people on her planet that was insanely overcrowded? Or are you thinking of a different Star Trek episode?
I'm thinking of a different Star Trek episode.
Oh my God, which one are you thinking of?
Season 1, Conscience of the King. Because Thanos is explaining his backstory, and Kirk, when he was a young man, lived on a colony, and the colony like ran out of food or something, and then the leader of the colony, who was kind of like a psychopath, said, "We're not going to get supplies, we're all going to die."
The revolution is successful, but survival depends on drastic measures.
How about we kill off half of you? And I'm going to do it at random.
You're a man of decision, Captain. You ought to understand that.
All I understand is that 4,000 people were needlessly butchered.
In order to save 4,000 others.
And that villain's name? Kodos.
So it's like, it has that where it's like, okay, we're going to take our time. But the problem with that is then when you get to the time travel stuff, they rush through the setup for that.
Speaking of time travel, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't bring up Star Trek. So the Star Trek Voyager series finale opens on the USS Voyager landing on Earth. And as we all know, the entire series has been the ship trapped in the Delta Quadrant trying to get back home, which would take about 60 or 70 years. 60,000 space miles. But at the end, it's in the future. It took them 23 years to get home. And then we flash forward 10 years after that. They get home, but at a great cost. Along the way, sometimes 7 of 9 dies. Chakotay dies of a broken heart. Captain Janeway stands over his grave and says, "I'll avenge you."
But when I'm through, things might be better for all of us.
Tuvok had a mental condition which he was unable to treat all those years in the Delta Quadrant because he didn't have the proper medicine, which was back on Earth. So he gets the Vulcan equivalent of Alzheimer's.
Oh my God.
And he's insane. And so Captain Janeway is very dissatisfied with how things have turned out.
Are you familiar with a drug called cronexaline?
We've been testing it at Starfleet Medical to determine if it can protect biomatter from tachyon radiation.
She seeks out the doctor to give her an experimental medication which will allow her to time travel. She discovers a brilliant Klingon scientist who has built a time travel machine. In the past, the Voyager crew discovered a cluster of wormholes.
There appear to be hundreds of distinct sources.
That was in the hub of a bunch of Borg ships. It was like a nest, a Borg hub, and there are millions of wormholes that the Borg used to shoot all over the galaxy. And so in the future, after all these people had died and Janeway had this kind of like, oh, this future sucks, I want to go back in time and fix it, she steals the Klingons' time travel device.
This will do just fine.
Uses the PIM molecule to protect her from time travel, and then travels back in time and tells her younger self, look, I'm going to armor up the ship with future technology that will make you impervious to the Borg. Then you could take this ship and fly through that wormhole and get everybody home 23 years earlier, and all these people don't have to die. And then younger Captain Janeway's like, no.
Well, I'm still me, and this is still my ship. So no more talk about what's going to happen until I decide otherwise.
I'm younger, more moral Captain Janeway. An older, more bitter, more cynical Captain Janeway kind of expected her to do that, so she double-crosses her and sacrifices herself to the evil Borg Queen and says, look, we can have our cake and eat it too. You guys fly through the wormhole and I'll blow up the fucking Borg hub so that the evil Borg Queen can't get it, just like Thanos can't get that Infinity Gauntlet. Their plan works. Captain Janeway and everybody return. Shoot. They fly into Earth in a giant exploding Borg cube to a fleet of starships that come to meet them to fight the Borg, just like all the superheroes came and fought the Thanos and all his bad guys. And the name of this final episode of Star Trek Voyager?
Endgame?
Endgame.
Is it actually? That's pretty fucking amazing.
Jay, am I suggesting this was plagiarized by the Duffer Brothers? I mean,
the Duffer Brothers.
I mean the writers of Star Trek Discovery. I mean the Russo brothers.
Wait, did you mention Star Trek Discovery?
And because the priest did awful things, he invited a demon named Neelix. In the film, the demon's name is like Guvix or Duvix or
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, it's something with an IX on the end. So I can, yeah. So then the demon named Neelix is haunting their game of truth or dare. The topic is very expansive about details, like there's poltergeist activity, things moving, there's EVPs, as we mentioned. They bring in more complex ghost hunting equipment in the later seasons, which to me starts bordering on the kind of territory, because early on, and we're going to talk about the movie soon. We just
context.
This is my other Star Trek. This is my interest, and y'all can make fun of me all you want, but look up the phrase "guilty pleasure" in the dictionary, okay? And it's real. Some of the stuff, it's like, okay, if they faked it, I don't give the creativity of people that work on a Travel Channel show that much credit. How subtle some of the stuff is, where it's like, okay, they peek around a corner, and as they're peeking around a corner, you see like this black mass, and then it kind of moves away to where it's not a shadow, but it kind of looks like it's intelligently moving away. And it's like, what was that? And then he tries to recreate it, and it's not there. And it's like, what? You know, it's very subtle, and it's on this grainy video, which is hard to reproduce.
Can you describe its form?
No.
Start from the beginning.
Annihilation is the new film from writer-director Alex Garland, whose last film was Ex Machina. You know, one of the best science fiction films in forever. Annihilation isn't a reboot or a remake, and it's not based on a comic book. It's based on a book, but not a fucking comic book. It's slow, intense, and intelligent, and doesn't treat its audience like idiots. Nobody went to see it. Mike, what episode of Star Trek did Annihilation remind you of?
For some strange reason, I was thinking of the worst episode of Star Trek The Next Generation ever, called Masks.
Asaka is waking.
Those of you out there know it.
Mask with Eric Stoltz?
Plural.
Where he fucks his mom, Cher, in that movie, right? Isn't that what happens?
No, that was the dumbest thing ever that I said that, because it really didn't. I was just thinking about that during the movie. No, that's a joke. So you could show clips from Masks.
Is there absolutely no correlation?
Well, kind of. The Enterprise gets infected with a computer program of an ancient culture, and it starts to slowly transform the Enterprise into like Mayan ruins with like trees and bricks, and Data becomes like a god. I was just chuckling to myself.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to make that comparison because it's so outlandish.
So that's a joke that 5 people will get.
Yeah. But you mentioned the moral dilemma with her going back and like her kids are alive in this dimension. This whole premise reminded me of an episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
And I won't be annoying about this. One of my favorite episodes from season 2, it's called Deadlock.
Bloodlock?
Deadlock.
Oh.
The Star Trek Voyager it's hiding in a space cloud, and electricity and some sort of weird spatial anomaly duplicates the ship. They share the same engine, but 2 levels of reality exist on top of one another.
Okay.
So it opens in the beginning, one of the crew members, I forget her name, she's having a baby. There's a baby born on Voyager that grows up into a little girl. Little bumps on her head. Forget the name. It's like something with a K, I can't remember. The baby
Is it Gugu?
It's Gugu. The baby's born, right? The baby's born and then it dies. And so they're like, sorry, your baby died. And then at some point, Harry Kim gets blown out into space.
Oh my God.
And they're like, Harry Kim's dead. He's blown out into space. And then after a while, they realize the Voyager that you're following, their ship keeps like damaging itself and blowing up. And they're like, why is everything not working right? And then they figure out that there's another Voyager on top of them existing in the exact same space that's all right. And so at the very end, they're like, listen, we got to blow up one of these Voyagers in order for anyone to live. And so they blow up the one that we started with, which is weird. But they're like, before we blow it up, we found a little rift in the space. We're going to send Harry Kim and the baby over since they died in your universe. And then they blow up the other Voyager. So the Harry Kim from season 2 on it's
like an alternate universe.
It's an alternate universe Harry Kim. And I've always loved that episode. And it's because it's so like, they figure out a way to talk to each other on the view screen. So it's like this Janeway's talking to that Janeway.
Yeah.
And they're like, hi, one of us has to blow up. Like, and the whole episode, there's no like, obviously there's no big like exciting set pieces and action because it's just a little TV show.
Right.
The whole thing's set on like the working the problem out and the moral dilemma, and almost immediately you kind of understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
And so it's working to solve the problem mixed with the moral dilemma and solution. I'd like to bring up Star Trek. This movie stole the concept of the mobile emitter because the Doctor character on Star Trek Voyager,
is that Picard?
Robert Picardo. Yeah, he's confined to the sickbay at first because there's hollow projectors in the sickbay. He's an emergency medical hologram, and he's there just for emergency purposes. But he ends up becoming the Doctor, and then in the later seasons they find a futuristic technology that's called his hollow emitter that he wears on his sleeve that allows him to go on adventures outside of the sickbay.
Okay, that is exactly the same thing that's in this.
Yes, and then we discover later on that the Federation uses holograms as slave labor to dig in mines, and so there's all these Robert Picardos digging in probably dilithium mines, doing the awful work. And so they bring up the idea of equal rights for holograms eventually in Star Trek. So
our definition of what constitutes a person has continued to evolve. Now we're asking that you expand that definition once more to include our Doctor.
What I'm trying to say is Blade Runner 2049 ripped off Star Trek Voyager, and there's nothing more embarrassing than that. Well, Get Out was a thoroughly enjoyable film. It was a little, I found it uneven, and kind of like a big episode of Star Trek, where people go to a place, they discover something weird's going on, and then they investigate it, and it's like, oh, that's what was going on this whole time.
I think a more apt comparison would be like the Twilight Zone, or maybe Tales from the Crypt, more so than Star Trek.
What about Hot Fuzz? It was like straight up like boom, 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 boom. And then of course that's the plot line, and I think that's kind of why it reminds me of Star Trek, is that there's the literal actual storyline, and then there's like the social commentary on top of it. That there's that on top of it, but then there's something else going on. And that's kind of like, that's kind of your Star Trek story. And then there's a little twist at the end, and oh, they're doing this, because I've been rewatching a lot of TOS lately, and that's every episode of TOS.
Do you ever stop watching Star Trek?
No, but I'm rewatching TOS because it's been a little while, and
couple days.
And almost every episode is a nightmarish horror movie scenario where the Starship Enterprise crew go down somewhere, and there's something funky going on, and they got to find out what. Yeah, that was one of the better action sequences or better moments of the movie. I really liked that part where he goes and gets. He goes and
Just call him Picard. It's
he
fine.
goes and gets Picard and puts him in the car. Straight out of Star Trek Generations, all the characters have little cameras in their ears.
Little like Bluetooth cameras. Yeah.
So they all have Bluetooth.
The O.J. Simpson workout.
Or more importantly, Jay, how are people going to play their Star Trek The Next Generation interactive VCR board game?
Oh my God, Mike, speaking of the Star Trek The Next Generation interactive VCR board game, have you seen the O.J. Simpson workout?
No, Jay, I have not seen the O.J. Simpson workout video. Lots of references. And I think Simon Pegg may have been making a reference to Tuvix. I don't know how much Simon Pegg knows about Star Trek. I know he's a big Star Wars guy. I have a feeling he watched every Star Trek show in order.
I'm going to assume he knows more than Robert Orci and Robert Kurtzman.
But they made a joke about McCoy and Spock being melded together once they beam back.
Oh yeah, that made me think of David Cronenberg's The Fly. Was that a Star Trek reference?
Well, yeah, and Scotty goes, that would be the worst thing that would happen. It was the worst idea ever, or something like that. And there was a Voyager episode where Neelix, the happy-go-lucky Hobbit character, and Tuvok, the emotionless Vulcan, get blended into a new being called Tuvix.
Oh my God.
And they're like, Tuvix is its own thing, we can't tell it to separate. He's like, I like myself now, I'm Tuvix. And they're like, we can't force it to come back apart. It's a new person, what do we do? I don't know. All those there's lots of ethical questions in Star Trek. That's what makes Star Trek fun, is all the ethical questions. So many good shows dealing with that. Brent Spiner's back.
He's got a lot. I was surprised by how much of this movie he was in.
It was great to have him back. I thought he was fun. Brent Spiner worked as comic relief. I thought he was really funny in this. When he's like, I gotta dig out my old laser that I tried to build 25 years ago, and it kind of works. Fuck it, and he's like shooting it. He was wonderful in this.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see Data back. He even said the word sick bay. It's like, I gotta get you to sick bay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my heart skipped a beat.
Well, and don't they say later when they're talking to it that it was saying like we're the only ones that have smart enough to have the technology to destroy these aliens, but the aliens destroyed all of us.
Yeah, maybe they figured it out later. I don't know, Jay. They basically are the they're the species 847 to the Borg.
Okay.
So they have this technology, and Data's in the room there, and they make a trap for the Queen alien. But she has her own little backpack that generates a shield, and she comes on. I like Jeff Goldblum. I like Data's character. He doesn't even have a name anymore.
He's just Data. Room is the third feature film from Jeremy Saulnier, the director of Murder Party and Blue Ruin. In this film, Anton Yelchin stars as a member of a punk rock band that gets in over their heads when they witness a murder backstage at a club run by violent skinheads. The leader of the skinhead organization is everyone's favorite bald guy, Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart? Anton Yelchin? That's right, it's Chekhov versus Picard. We're getting those Star Trek references out of the way right up front, motherfucker. Mike, was Star Trek all you were going to talk about?
Whoever that fucker was who read the intro stole my thunder.
I don't know who it was. I don't know who reads these intros.
I've been waiting years to say punk rock Chekhov versus Nazi Picard. And not, it wasn't Walter Koenig. It was Anton Yelchin, the Chekhov from the alternate timeline J.J. Abrams universe. It was a clash of universes, Jay.
This is fanfic overload.
It was Picard was brainwashed in a different dimension. It's like the episode where Benjamin Sisko is a crime writer in the 1940s on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Was that a plot line?
I think so. There's many episodes of many series of Star Trek where one of the characters is out of time, out of place, in a different world where their memories are wiped and they're doing something completely different that normally do. And so is a bad guy. There's of course the mirror universe in Star Trek, the original series, and which carries over into Deep Space Nine.
Oh, of course.
They bring back the mirror universe in Deep Space Nine,
Yeah.
where everyone's fucked up and evil, and some people are, most people are. And so the whole time I watched this film, I was just thinking, like, this is great.
This is a great Star Trek episode. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I kept wanting to hear Patrick Stewart say, "Throw the phaser under the door." Also,
That's it.
Yeah, that's our review. We talk about the movie when we talk about the movie.
But I thought he was very good.
My vote is for Tom Hardy in The Revenant. I love Tom Hardy. Yeah, that's true.
A little bit later, yeah.
Really, Rich, for a second, I thought you were going to talk about how a probe sent out in 1982 would probably be near the inner solar system only. The Voyager probe sent out in the 70s is just barely leaving our solar system. So at least in Star Trek the Motion Picture, they speculate that the Voyager probe may have entered a wormhole. See, when I saw the helmet and Paul Rudd has to go to open it up, I thought, and I gave the movie too much credit, I thought he needed to use it to breathe. Because there's an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine where they discover a anomaly in space that will, if you pass through it, it will shrink down your molecules. And Chief O'Brien, Lieutenant Jadzia Dax, and Dr. Julian Bashir get into a little tiny shuttlecraft. Well, it's not tiny then, it's a regular sized, it's a runabout. And they pass through the thing and they shrink. And they shrink to about this big. And they fly around inside the Defiant. It's a really great episode. It's pointless, but they're like, we got to get out of the ship and fix something. And then the doctor's like, no, you can't, because when you breathe outside of the ship, the oxygen molecules are too large for your blood to assimilate them, so you'll suffocate to death. So I thought,
and you wanted that kind of science in Ant-Man? Hey, did you know Mommy Can I Keep Her is directed by Fred Olen Ray, who did Alienator? There's a scene, it's actually done twice in the movie, where there's a little montage of Michael Pena explaining the backstory of this heist that he's leading up to, and it's like he's explaining it, but we're seeing flashbacks where the characters are talking, but it's his voice coming out of him, and it's like whoosh, whoosh. Character. Very moments. Shot like one of those cheapo romantic comedies that they dump into theaters every February. So Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor get in the time machine to travel to 2017. Arnold cannot go with them because his skin has been burnt off, and so he's a robot, so he says, I'll meet you there.
wait, stop.
Oh my God.
Okay, I've seen plenty of episodes of Star Trek or shows like that.
You watch Star Trek?
I have watched Star Trek.
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
The show that takes place aboard the Star Trek Enterprise with Dr. Spock. One of the weirder aspects of it was, like you said, Arnold saying words like technobabble.
Yeah.
And I never saw Terminators as like Datas, like Brent Spiner Data. Like, I saw them as just mindless killing robots. But for some reason, he's as smart as Data, and he could build a fucking time machine. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when Data traveled back to San Francisco in the 1890s and met Mark Twain? Data was also building some sort of device out of technology at the time to communicate to the future. But Data could do that because he's smart. That was in the two-parter episode Time's Arrow. Do you think Arnold took Sarah Connor's virginity?
Yes.
Like, because he was protecting her since age 9. I don't think he let her go on dates.
That's exactly what happened.
Are you fully functional? I am fully functional. That's a reference to Star Trek Next Generation.
Does Data have sex on Star Trek?
Oh, yeah.
That's a little weird.
He never gets rapey, but he does have sex. He has sex.
Well, I'm glad he doesn't get rapey. So they kill John Connor, who was at
Are we still talking about Terminator Genesis in space? Jay, I don't know anything about video games or video game systems. I mean, look at this. This looks like something a Vorto would wear in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I don't know what that means.
The Ewok village is memorable.
Yeah.
The Sarlacc pit monster is memorable. I mean, like...
Harrison Ford is a charming fellow.
Harrison Ford is a charming fellow. Princess Leia is a sassy lady.
Guy McAccent is not a charming fellow.
Are you talking about the memorable character of Cassian?
Was that his name?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was Cassio.
Cassio keyboard? Yeah.
It's Cassian Andor, and I remember that because his name sounds like Calrissian Andor. Andor.
Yeah.
That's a Star Trek reference.
But Endor.
Andor, sure.
Sounds like Endor.
We're Star Trek people, so...
There is a planet called Andor, which has the Andorians, which are the blue people with the antenna.
But then there's the planet of Endor that has the Ewoks.
That starts with an E.
Sure. But Star Wars has a history of mocking Star Trek in their character names, hence the Nemoidians.
Oh, yeah.
Where George Lucas said, that moron Leonard Nimoy, I'm going to show him. And boy, did he show him. With that Phantom Menace. Oh, boy. So if the bombs are self-propelled, which they would have to be, why don't they just, like, launch them from a distance of, like, 500 million miles?
Going really fast? Like a photon torpedo?
Lock and load!
Fire!
Yeah, I know, that makes sense.
There's a Star Trek Voyager episode about this, where the Maquis had a planet-destroying missile that was self-guided and somehow wound up in the Delta Quadrant. And B'Elanna Torres had to disarm it because it was out of control.
She programmed it, right?
Yeah.
It was the suicide bomb or whatever.
Yes. In the event that they got killed, it would head towards Cardassia and blow up Cardassia, but it had like an AI in it, and it was like, I'm gonna go blow something else up.
Its targeting scanners have been activated.
And it's like, it could take out a whole fucking planet. So the rebellion needs to develop some serious long-range weapons. I would have liked it if the alien stayed in like hand-sized creature, and then maybe had babies.
It's easier to sneak around that way. It was creepier when it was smaller.
When there was, and then they cut to a shot, and then they're going down the hallway, and then like the door breaks open and goes, and like thousands of them spill out.
There you go.
Coming up the hallway. Once you introduce that one is fucking dangerous and boom, break your hand, then you have a shot of thousands of them coming down the whole hallway, and you're like, close the blast doors, close the blast doors. It's amazing. But instead it turned into a big thing that looked like species 8472. And I was embarrassed. Oh yeah, and Paul Blart falls down a lot. And his 45-year-old hairdresser daughter gets kidnapped by the guy from Star Trek First Contact.
Like, okay, this giant monster just showed up on shore. What do we do? And so we have scenes with like the military, we have scenes with the government, we have scenes with scientists, and it's all, like everybody trying to work together, but there's all this like political red tape, so everything's taking way longer than it should. And that's the whole movie. And it's fucking awesome. I think as like a Star Trek fan, like a TNG fan, you would actually like it. Because it's very, in rewatching our Godzilla review from 2014, you're like, I would love to see a movie that's just scientists trying to figure out what to do. And that's the movie.
I like a good procedural drama.
That's what it is. Oh, I think all the vodka's gone, Mike.
God damn it. What am I going to put in my crystal head? How about this?
What is that?
Why, it's some kind of Romulan food pack ration.
Oh.
It's from the hit TV series Star Trek Picard.
Wow, that looks like a...
Oh!
Wow, that looks like a screen-used prop.
Yeah, it is.
How the hell did you get that?
I guess it might be worth something someday. Somewhere out in space, a Romulan child is starving.
Oh, it smells like an open grave.
Amazing, amazing costumes and creativity, and the wonderful little backstories of all the times Psycho Gorman has destroyed worlds.
A lot of world building and mythology in what is ultimately a really stupid comedy,
Right.
which elevates it. It's yeah, all that stuff is super creative and fun.
Yeah, and I like the idea of little kids on Earth befriending a violent, monstrous alien, because they take it to the limit. He has no redeeming qualities. He is just...
His backstory kind of gives you a little bit of understanding of him.
Yeah. He was like a slave, and he broke free, and but he's just basically pure evil.
He just goes from planet to planet and destroys everyone. He's like a Thanos, kind of.
Yeah.
Although Thanos
Worse
has more of
than
an agenda,
Thanos,
yeah.
Yeah, he's the skin of evil from the Tasha Yar death episode.
We believe everything in the universe has a right to exist.
An interesting notion which I do not share.
I won't even bother explaining it.
What'd you do at Star Trek Trivia?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Jay, because my team won.
Oh, what'd you win?
I won this toy.
What is that?
What do you mean, what is it? It's a Klingon disruptor from Star Trek Generations.
Oh, that's your favorite Star Trek movie, right?
You're right, it is.
So if you pay to see a product that you know is inferior, that has a history, a long history, and the newer stuff sucks, and you know it's going to suck, but you are still willing to pay for it, what you are doing is encouraging more movies like that to get made.
That's right, Jay. But no, yeah, Bruce Willis. Even though in his advancing senior years, he's starting to look like Mr. Magoo. I notice it in his face. He no longer looks like a man. He's starting to look like Mr. Magoo.
I don't know if I saw that.
He looks like the guy that plays an admiral in Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
Admiral Paris. And
Do you ever
he
think-
looks like Mr. Magoo.
Do you ever think that maybe you draw too many comparisons to Star Trek? Not everything is about Star Trek.
Oh. Hello? Yeah, we did place an order for a pizza. Oh, is this Mr. Berman? Rick Berman? Oh, yeah, you'll be delivering it? Oh, it's Rick Berman. There's a producer on
The
this.
guy who produced Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, he works at Topper's Pizza now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I called about half an hour ago to order a pizza.
Okay, is he delivering it?
He's delivering it. Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. It was the one topping, just cheese and sausage pizza. Yeah, you'll be delivering it, Mr. Berman? Yeah, no. We do tip, despite what your records show there. Yeah, we do tip. Yeah. About half an hour. Thank you. The movie fucking sucked.
Well, here's
so hard. It was like watching paint dry.
Here's what I will say.
Except watching paint dry is funner.
I was okay. I'm assuming you are not a fan of Richard
Quit
Linklater.
being an apologist for Linklater,
No.
Bauman.
I like Richard Linklater. Not everything he's done, but I like some of the things he's done.
I'll admit, the only film of his I've seen was in film school. I was forced to watch Slacker, and I watched it and I said, this is a no Star Trek The Next Generation.
The movie then happens. It stars no one you've ever heard of except for Alfre Woodard, who is in Star Trek First Contact. Mike wrote this. The movie is about 90 minutes long, then it ends. If anyone, I don't feel bad for the actors. I'm sure they were happy to get this break because nobody knew who they were before this.
Let me get this straight. The lady from Star Trek First Contact throws herself out of a window to save my baby's soul from being eaten by the devil, which is inside a plastic doll. Okay, whatever. Americans and their trash.